In this video, I'm going to tell you why Dave Ramsey's advice doesn't work and why his baby steps and his other philosophies will keep you poor and broke.
This video is brought to you by none other than Hire Heroes, you guys. Hire Heroes is your one-stop shop when it comes to virtual staffing and making sure that you have qualified talent with your business. One thing that I love about Hire Heroes, you guys, is they've actually gone through the process already of vetting and making sure that your staff member is well trained to best fit your needs. Whether you need help with social media work, posting things on your accounts, responding to people that send messages to your social media accounts, whether you need help with data entry or a multitude of other things that they're qualified to do, Hire Heroes has got you covered. If you're having trouble finding quality talent and number two, affording to be able to run payroll for that talent, Hire Heroes has got you covered with an affordable alternative to have a virtual assistant working for your business. There's a link down in the description of this video to where you can learn more about getting your own VA through Hire Heroes. I certainly recommend it. They're what we use in our business for all of our virtual assistant needs, and you will want to make sure that you check them out today.
We've all seen a good Dave Ramsey clip video over the years, especially on YouTube, especially since he's taken his ever popular, influential, really, and very successful radio show onto YouTube and put on live shows and clips. Now, I am not completely against Dave Ramsey and some of the things that he teaches. I think actually a lot of them are very good. I think his philosophies are incredibly valuable for helping get you out of debt. I think if you are in a mountain of debt, Dave Ramsey's strategies actually might be something you might want to follow. It might help you actually get out of debt. Once upon a time in my career, I found myself in about $10,000 of credit card debt, $12,000 in student loan debt, not for myself, I didn't go to college, but for my wife, who had a massage therapy degree that she never did anything with. But she had some student loan debt left over that I kind of married. You know, you marry the spouse, you marry the debt. We had car debt from 2 car loans, about $30,000 or $40,000. And there might have been a couple of other things, but those are the things that come to mind, okay? Now, when I was young in my business and I didn't have the same kind of cash flow as I do today, Dave Ramsey's strategies helped me get out of debt. Today, I don't owe any debt on anything except for my house. Now, occasionally I've taken out a business loan here or there to kind of get nice cash flow for my business without having to dip into my own personal finances, but I've typically paid those off relatively quickly. So I'm not saying that Dave Ramsey's strategies are completely bad or wrong, but once you're out of debt and you're trying to get yourself to a place that you're trying to build wealth, you're trying to increase your income, Dave Ramsey's advice is, in my opinion, not the greatest advice, and it's very, very limited in terms of the focus on increase income. It's all about saving, and in today's world of inflation, you can't save your way to prosperity. We've seen it time and time again, and there's been too many successful people that have said it, and I am another one that is going to piggyback on that narrative, okay? So one thing we are going to kind of go through real quickly is Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps for budgeting, okay? I'm going to go through them, and I'm just going to kind of show some examples as to some of the holes in the logic for Dave Ramsey's baby steps. So the first one is start an emergency fund, okay? I'm reading from an article here from Check City, so shout out to Check City. The first step in Dave Ramsey's 7-step plan is to save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. One of the main reasons people struggle with money is because necessary emergency expenses like medical bills, car bills, or home repairs come out of nowhere and drag you deeper and deeper into debt. But if you are prepared for these surprises, expenses, and they won't take you off guard again. So here's the problem with saving $1,000, and I'll give you a couple. Number one, $1,000 can't buy anything today in 2023. That might have been relatively passable advice 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. But having $1,000, I can't think of one emergency that might happen in my life that I can cover with $1,000. Okay, that's number one. Number two, inflation is real. The last couple of years, we've seen higher inflation rates than we have ever seen before. Your money is on a daily basis losing its value and becoming less valuable than it was before. So almost think about it from a analogy standpoint. If you have $1,000 that just sits in the bank that earns virtually no interest, most banks don't pay much interest whatsoever. It's like 0.0001%. But I digress. You have $1,000. Think about it like 6 months from now, and then it's $900. But with increasing and compounding effects of inflation, that is actually more realistic than you might realize, okay? Keeping your money in the bank and not doing anything with it and just camping it there is like losing money. And when I finally realized this as a young man, once I got out of debt and I wasn't saving money like I used to or just parking it in the bank, I finally realized that part of wealth building strategies is continuously keeping your money moving. You cannot save your way to wealth. You can't save your way to prosperity. I will give you an example. Let's say you save $100 a month for the next 30 years, and you're just saving it. You're not really doing all that much with it. So you're saving $1,200 a year at $100 a month. For 30 years, you only have $36,000. And keep this in mind, inflation won't stop. So 30 years from now, $36,000 may very well be as much as valuable as $13,000 today. So understand that those are the two problems. Number one, $1,000 is not going to properly cover a true emergency. And number two, keeping your money just sitting there in the bank, it's losing its value. And it's advice that frankly, unsuccessful people and poor people give, because 20, 30, 40 years ago, you could put your money in the bank, in a regular bank, and you could earn 8, 9, 10% interest. That's just outdated information. It doesn't work anymore. Let's go to step number 2. Focus on debts. The second step in Dave Ramsey's plan is to pay off all debt except for the house, using the debt snowball. The snowball method that Dave Ramsey refers to here means that you should start paying off small debts first and work your way up to the bigger debts. Debts can include paying off your car, credit card debts, and student loan debts. First, make a giant list of all your debts, every single one, except for your mortgage if you have a house. Then put your list of debts in order from smallest debt to largest. Then you go through knocking out each debt by eliminating the smallest debt first and working your way up to the largest debt last. I actually don't have a problem with that necessarily. I believe if you have credit card debt, let's say, and most credit cards are going to have a 15 to a 25% interest rate, it's going to eat you alive. So you got to pay off that debt. I am not a fan of bad debt. There is such a thing as good debt and bad debt, right? So like if I have some debt and I have 2-3% interest rate, do I really want to rush to pay that off? Probably not. But if I have a 10, 15, 20, 25%, 30% interest rate, I want to get that debt out of the way because it's just going to compound. The compounding effects are real in that way. I'm not so against paying off debt in that way. I don't think that's such a bad thing. If you're drowning in debt, you probably want to pay it off because then you'll be able to breathe and you'll be able to spend your money on other things, right? The third step is to save 3 to 6 months of a fully funded emergency fund. Now that you've gotten all your debts out of the way, it's time to finish your emergency fund. You can use the same money that you were using to pay off the debts each month and put it towards your emergency fund until it has enough to cover 3 to 6 months of your bills. Then you'll really be prepared for anything. And then it gives some reasons to have an emergency fund. If you lose your job, number 1. Number 2, if your car breaks down. Number 3, medical bills. Number 4, home repairs. I saw an interview recently from Grant Cardone. If any of you know, Grant Cardone is one of my favorite people that I take advice from, that I listen to. I've studied all of his books, his materials, his training programs, and I've learned a lot from Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone said in this interview that by him not having an emergency fund and investing it into his businesses and into his real estate ventures, that it's allowed him to be rich. And I believe that by putting your money into an emergency fund and always wanting to just camp money there in worry of a disaster that probably is never going to happen, you're preventing yourself from putting yourself in a situation where over a few years, maybe a decade, that you are 10xing, 20xing, maybe even 100xing the money that you could be putting into a business venture of yours, that you could be putting into some kind of investment. Maybe it's a real estate property. Maybe it's buying stocks. Maybe it's putting it into a fund. Anything that's going to allow your money to grow at a substantial rate and appreciate instead of depreciate. And don't get me wrong, inflation is depreciation of your money. Don't get that twisted. It is. It's depreciation of your money in the highest and most damaging ways that it possibly can be. So putting 3 to 6 months away, it's living a mentality of a Chicken Little life. The sky is falling, Chicken Little, always being worried, always playing defense opposed to playing offense. And it might be scary, and you might even come back and say, well, Christian, this is risky what you're suggesting, but no one said being successful is easy. And sometimes you have to be a little risque and a little risky and put yourself on offense if you really want to be successful. Nobody's ever gotten rich by playing defense all the time. It's just such small thinking, in my opinion. I would rather put my reserves into something that's going to help me make more money instead of it just sitting there and losing value every single day that it sits there in the bank. Okay? So number 4, save for retirement. The 4th step in the Dave Ramsey plan is to invest 15% of your household income in retirement. After your debts are gone and your emergency fund is taken care of, it's time to start seeing to other important savings like retirement. Dave Ramsey recommends that you should take 15% of your gross monthly income and put it towards a retirement fund each month. To figure out how much you should be putting into your retirement fund each month, take your monthly income and multiply it by 0.15, so 15%. Here's my problem with this. There's no emphasis on growing your income. Like, this is the problem here. So many people that take advice from Dave Ramsey, they're making $25,000 a year. They're making $40,000, $50,000 a year. So if you are following these advice step by step and you're not finding new ways to drive revenue and increase your income, that's going to be how you're going to need to chase abundance. Think about how long a person that's making $30,000, $40,000 a year that has $100,000 in debt is going to take to pay it off. It's going to take forever. Then you're taking 15% of that. Well, if you're not ever focused on increasing your income, that 15% is not going to really amount to much. And this is the hole and the blind spot in the Dave Ramsey advice. It's all about saving money, not buying Starbucks, paying off your debt, have no debt, invest 15%, be conservative. It's all playing defense. And none of the most successful people on this planet ever got there by playing defense. It's just not a thing. Step 5, save for college funds. I don't believe in college, so this is why I would not do this. I don't believe they teach you how to be successful in college. I believe actually they probably teach you how to be a worker. They teach you how to be part of the system and not to take advantage of your own destiny. I just am not a believer in college. I'm a college dropout, worked out pretty well for me. All of my peers that I went to high school with, that went to college and got fancy dancy degrees, I am wildly more successful than all of them. So scoreboard, right? And I'm not here to gloat or brag or talk about how great I am, but the path I took while they were in classrooms learning about isosceles triangles and algebra 6.1 or whatever the hell they're learning, economics from somebody that doesn't know anything about economics, learning a business class from someone that's never ran a business. They're teaching it out of a textbook, right? While they were doing that at age 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, I was building my business and getting real life experience. And again, scoreboard. So I'm just going to skip over that because I think unless you want to be a doctor, unless you want to be a lawyer, something that you absolutely cannot do without a college degree, it's an absolute scam and waste of time. Step 6, pay off your house. Again, it depends. If I have an 8% interest rate on my house and I have some terrible interest rate, I might want to pay that off a little earlier. But however, if I'll use my house for example. My house is worth $550,000 today, okay? There's only 3 of us. I didn't want a $800,000 house, $1 million house. So that's what we got. It's 2 minutes from my office. It's perfect for our lives at this point in time. But it's not a dump. It's $550,000. It's $500,000 house in a nice area. If I was to pay off my house, let's say I did it in the next year or 2, and I took $500,000 to pay it off. Let's just say that's what we owe. That is such small thinking to me. Yes, I don't have a $2,500 a month mortgage payment anymore. But you don't think I could take $500,000 and put it into my business and make millions as a result? It's just such a poor use of money to me. I would much rather make that $2,500 a month payment and take that $500,000 that I was putting into paying off my house and explode my business and potentially sell it for 8-9 figures instead. It's just such a small, scared of everything type of thinking. And it's why people never get massively successful. Maybe they have a net worth of $1 million after 30 or 40 years of the advice, and that's all they have. They still couldn't have generational wealth. They still couldn't retire too early. You know, they could potentially run out of money. It's just, it's not going to build you to prosperity. It's not. And paying off your house, I mean, I think it's great when people pay off their house. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing for some people. I know people that have paid off their house and they've done it and it's been very good for them. I'm just speaking from me personally as someone that runs a business. That advice is not really relevant for me. It's not good advice as far as I'm concerned. I have a 3% interest rate on my mortgage. So I'm cool with that. I will never make more than my minimum payment forever. And I probably won't even keep the house for 30 years. It's a traditional 30-year mortgage. I'll probably sell it prematurely, buy another house. So I really feel like I can just do more with that money that's going to contribute to my wealth building activities. Number 7, build wealth. Okay, so it says, finally, it's time to build wealth. Now, for a lot of people, these steps, these first 6 steps, they might take you 10 years because you don't focus on driving and increasing your income. There's no concentration on it whatsoever. None. So if you're making minimum wage and you take 20 years to do this, maybe you can't even do it in 20 years. Maybe you can never afford to do it. Now it's time to build wealth. I don't want to wait 20 years to build wealth. Congratulations. Once you've reached the 7th step in the Dave Ramsey baby steps, you can start focusing on building your wealth. Don't forget to keep and maintain those financial safety nets like an emergency fund, retirement account. So I'm tying up more money in things that's going to lose me money. What did Rich Dad Poor Dad say? What did Robert Kiyosaki say? If there's 2 categories in your financial statement and how you should be looking at finances. There's assets and liabilities. An asset takes money out of an asset pays me every month, An asset puts money into my pocket consistently. A liability takes money out of my pocket. So the everything it mentions here, the emergency fund, retirement account, savings account, college fund, all of that is depreciating, taking money out of my account. I mean, maybe not the retirement account, but it's probably going to be something conservative. It's going to be a mutual fund, a 401k. It's going to be something that the system is providing, and it's something I don't have control over, and I'm not cool with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I invest in the market, but I invest far more into my company and my business, something that I control. I'm investing in me opposed to anything else. Now you're officially in charge of your money rather than it being in charge of you. Okay, so that's the Dave Ramsey's 7-step baby steps. In my opinion, you are only going to get so far with that. I think it will allow you to potentially, if you follow everything to the T and you're incredibly disciplined and you live on beans and rice like Dave Ramsey says, you could potentially be upper middle class. You're never going to be massively successful or incredibly wealthy. So understand this, my friends. Understand that some of this advice, it was advice that was given in the 70s and the 80s, and the game of money is different today than it was back then. Play the game with the modern rules. Don't play with the rule book from 40 years ago. Anyway, guys, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I'd love to have a conversation respectfully in the comments on this. Comment your thoughts down below. If you agree with me and you like this kind of content, do me a favor by smashing the like button for the YouTube algorithm. That's going to help more people like you who need to see this information find it easier. Make sure that if you are an insurance agent, Medicare agent specifically, to get your ticket to my conference, the Six Figure Medicare Agent Summit in Salt Lake City, June 9th and 10th this year. Tickets can be found down in the description. Make sure that you get it, book your hotel room, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you at the top. Thanks, guys.